Welcome to another episode of the OYNB podcast series 3. I'm so excited to welcome back this very special guest. He is a good friend and he's an incredible human being setting out really to help people find excellence in themselves and in their businesses. He's one of the leading minds and coaches in business in the UK, and now he's written a book which is incredibly relevant to the work that we are doing here. I'm really excited to dive into the elements of this book and just how aligned it is to the things we're doing here at OYNB. So, without further ado, let's welcome Will Polston. Well, welcome to the show, Will. Welcome back, I should say. Welcome back.
Yeah, good to be back. Good to be back.
Good to have you back. It's a shame I needed you to go and write a whole book as an excuse to get you back on the podcast. I just want to say, you don't need to go and write books to come back on this podcast. We would welcome you anytime.
Well, what a waste of time that was. all that effort, those hours I've slaved just to be able to get back on. Just note to self.
Note
for next
to self.
time.
Yeah. No, great to have you. Great to have you back on. But so, Will, for those people who I can't believe they haven't listened to the first podcast episode, do you want to give us a bit of background into Will Polston?
Yeah, so I'll give you the whirlwind background, and we went into this in detail last time on the podcast, which people can go back and find on the OYNB podcast. But whirlwind story is I grew up with the belief that money equaled happiness, went on a tangent to make as much money as I could as early as I could, become pretty good at that. The more personal development I did, the more money I made. That went on for some years, and then 10 years ago, I had a big, what I call lightning moment, and realised that my real driver was nothing to do with money. It was never really about money. It was all to do with my dad and how my dad hadn't achieved certain things that he was capable of, and the impact that had on him and my mum and me and my family and a whole host of other people. And I vowed in that moment I didn't want anyone else to go through the suffering that he went through and we went through as a result of them not achieving their full potential. So from that moment, I've been dedicated to anything to do with human awareness, human potential, human behaviour, to enable people to achieve their full potential, which I love doing and do on a daily basis.
When you say you do that on a daily basis, tell me a bit more about that. What are you doing for people?
So essentially what I do is get people to live a life that they love by mastering their mindset, mindset, productivity and efficiency. So that's kind of the marketeer's way of me summarizing what we do. But what that looks like practically, obviously we've got a coaching and training company, and then I've got a few other different companies that all fold into a similar thing. So we've got a medicinal mushroom supplement company, and all of these.
I saw you were growing mushrooms in Essex.
Yeah, we are indeed, which raises some eyebrows when you start talking about that. But we like growing people and things literally. But everything we do kind of revolves around this, and that for me is the North Star for me, which is something that wakes me every day. I wake up, I'm looking forward to it, but I like to think I'm congruent in the sense that I live these principles as well. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly looking to level up, and I don't know if you do this, Rory. I'm sure you do, but I scroll through Facebook and it comes up with these memories. Facebook memories, they come up. And even sometimes as recent as a year or two ago, I just cringed and think, oh my God, what did I say? What was I doing? What was I thinking? Like, I mean, you get it when it's 10, 15 years ago, but even just 2 or 3 years ago. And that for me is the sign of growth.
So you almost should be uncomfortable with your Facebook feed. It should remind you of, you should be looking back at yourself a year ago and think, God, that was 10 years ago I was thinking that.
Yeah.
You really are. You're growing at pace.
Yeah, that's certainly one way of looking at it for sure.
What would you give as an example then of something you've scrolled back on that you thought was the most important thing to share on social media a year ago, and how has your mind changed about that now?
There are dozens, and I'll tell you what, this is actually, we're going to go a little bit deep straight away.
That's how I like it.
I grew up. I've grown up playing ice hockey my whole life, my rugby my whole life, very much a lad culture. I was a broker in the city, lad, very masculine environment. And even the way that I would speak about women just 4 or 5 years ago, things like talking about I mean, posts I look at now and I think, oh, really? Did I say that to like however many thousand people on social media about the fact that good-looking women are solar powered? You know, the sun comes out and you see. So it's like things at that extreme, which I just and look at and think, I cannot believe that I was saying things like that. Drunk photos, you know, the things that I thought. I had one come up yesterday actually that I vividly remember this, where I woke up and it was a Saturday morning, and I woke up in my white bed sheets, and I can't even say a half-eaten, probably an 8-eaten, super large doner kebab, and I thought it was a great idea to post the photo of, well, this is who I ended up in bed with last night, just stuff like that. And I think I said something like I've had worse or something. But yeah, it was that kind of stuff, which I was actually scrolling through just as we were speaking. Was there anything that I did on this day, which would tell you on this day, however many days?
Oh yeah,
however many years ago.
That is this specific day. That would have been funny. That would have been
but not today.
You touched on your own relationship with alcohol there, because I mean, used to being a broker and lad culture and everything. You've had your skin full, let's say, but you've been on that journey to change your relationship with alcohol yourself. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I like many people, binge drink. You know, I was never one to get home and go, I'm going to crack open a beer. It was Thursday night, right, we're out, and then Friday night we're out, and Saturday night we're out, feel like crap all day Sunday, and then Monday I was at 60%, Tuesday I was at 70%, and what I mean by 70% is productivity, energy, and all that shit. Wednesday 80%, Thursday 90%, and then we'd do it all over again. You know, it was just Groundhog Week. I felt like I was living the same week over and over again, energy-wise, enthusiasm-wise. And I remember it was my 29th birthday, and there was a goal I really wanted to achieve by the time I was 30, and it was really affecting me because I realised that I was impacting my family negatively as a result of having not done this particular thing I wanted to do by the time I was 30. And I thought, right, I'm going to give up. I'm going to give up for a year. I'll give up drinking. And I did. I gave up for a year and I absolutely loved it. And one of the things that, for anyone that's listening to this, that's maybe thinking about giving up, is that I made it a challenge. You know, I know you do your 28 days and your 90 days and the 365 days, and maybe there's lots of other programs now. But it was just the fact that it was 1 year. It felt like it wasn't as big of a decision. You know, it was only 1 year of my life. It wasn't I'm giving up forever and worrying about all of the anxiety of, well, what happens if I say I'm never going to drink again and then I want to get married and I decide I want a glass of champagne, and what if. It just took all of that out. So that was really helpful for me. I've never said this, I don't think, to anybody, let alone on a podcast to thousands of people that are going to be listening. But I tell you what actually did make me drink again was a form of peer pressure. And it was a form of peer pressure in the sense I'd already gone my year, and it was about 18 months in, and there was a girl I really fancied. I really, really liked her. And we were dating, and then it was kind of not working as well as I thought it was going to. And one of the reasons that she said why was one of the factors, I'm sure this wasn't the only factor, was that you don't drink, Will. And she said, but because you don't drink, like my family were all big drinkers, I just don't know how I'm going to see that play out. And I was like, oh, well, I can drink. So I had a drink. And I remember it was Halloween. It was the 31st of October. I don't know what year, 4 years ago, whatever. And I had a drink, and I was fine. I had a couple of beers, and then I had a couple more beers on another night out, a couple more beers, and then I had 2 big nights out. You know, the ones where you don't remember anything, you black out, you wake up with massive anxiety again, thinking, why did I do that? And then that was it. And one of those was Christmas Eve, 4 years ago this year. And I just said, that's it. I'm done. I'm making a decision now. I don't need to drink. It's not a challenge anymore. I definitely don't need to drink because of her. That kind of been and gone. But from then on, it's a choice. It's been a choice since then. I've still never said I'm never going to drink again. But rather than it being a challenge, it's now that choice.
Yeah, that's amazing. And a lot of people move into that exact same place, right? They start off with a challenge and then they make that realization that they're just so much better. So well done for you. That's amazing. Would you say you've inspired some other people along the way? I'm sure you have.
Well, a mutual friend of ours who actually originally put us in contact together, Nick James. He was one person that we both know, and Nick reached out to me once. He said, I'm going to do a year off drinking. I've been inspired by you and then 2 or 3 others. But yeah, I know for sure there's been people. And it's funny. So I host a dinner in Essex once a month, and it's at this luxury wedding venue. And it's amazing. When we first went, I said, have you got any alcohol-free beers? And they went, oh yeah, I think we've got one. It might have been Beck's Blue or something, which we all know is the worst alcohol-free beer.
Some people do like it. Some people
really
not. Yeah.
Okay. But now there are so many. I mean, so many out there. But at this particular venue, because we've got the dinner on Wednesday evening, and there are literally dozens and dozens of alcohol-free beers that are being sold at this event now. So it's great.
It just shows how much the times are changing, which is fantastic news for people who want to change their relationship with alcohol, because so much of it is that peer pressure and things like that. So, well, what have you been up to since you came on the podcast a couple of years ago? What have you been up to?
Wow, there was this minor global event that happened. I don't know, you might not have heard about it, but yeah, this thing called COVID. So that had an impact on the business. So at the time, we were running like 80 events around the UK every year. So we decided to take everything online. We did that, so big transition, and then launched a few different businesses, wrote a book that's come out. Yeah, so there's
that is what I'm looking forward to having a chat with. So let's talk about this book. What was the inspiration for it? Where did it come from?
I've been asked that question a few times, and I the honest truth is, I don't consciously know. The only thing I can think is the last book that I read, I read before reading a particular book, which I'll come on to in a second, was the first Harry Potter book when I was in year 6 at school, and I didn't read another book until I was 18. And the book that I read was The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, a very well-known personal development book about the law of attraction. And I still think this to today is that for almost everybody, the most powerful personal development book they ever read is the first one they read, because it bridges the most amount of knowledge. I read a book about a book a week now, but it's only incremental. It's micro gains, that I'm gaining. Whereas that first book, and for a lot of people, it's Think and Grow Rich, it's The Secret, it's Wake Dad, Poor Dad, Awaken the Giant, whatever it will be, it's going to be one of the classics, How to Win Friends and Influence People. But hopefully years to come, people will be saying North Star Thinking. But it's one of those things, and I do truly think that a big part of it was so much of what I've learned and my education. Yes, I went to school for 16 years or whatever it was, but so much of what I call my education, not my schooling, that's different. My education has come from reading or listening to books. So I wanted to be able to have that let's call it tool for people that's out there. And that was one of the things that's really important for me. That there's a lot of books that are out there, and you've definitely read some of them, that are, in marketing terms, a lead magnet. They're the thing that give you a little bit, so that then you have to enroll in the course, the program, the whatever. And what I truly wanted was something that someone could read from cover to cover, apply, and even if they never did anything with us, it could be transformational. That was really important to me. I didn't want it to just be information. I wanted it to enable transformation, and hopefully that's what we've created.
Amazing. Well, tell me about the book. It's called North Star Thinking.
North Star Thinking, Master Your Mindset and Live Your Life You Love. So I've worked with quite a lot of people now, probably over 2,000 people, done over 6,000 hours of one-on-one coaching, and there's been some patterns that I've noticed. And one of the patterns that I noticed, because it was applicable in my own life, and I've seen it with countless people, from startup entrepreneurs to people that have sold their businesses for multi-nine-figure sums, is that if people become obsessed with a goal, a short or medium-term goal, then eventually they end up with what I call when-then syndrome. When I achieve X, Y, and Z, then I'll be happy. When I achieve this, then I'll be okay. When I achieve that, then I'll be complete. And it becomes this kind of pinball of, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to get that, and then I get it, and then I'm going to set something else, I'm going to set something else. And what it leads to ultimately is unfulfillment, being unmotivated, unfulfilled. It's like, what's the point? I'm striving. I'm like the hamster on the hamster wheel. And then one day I was thinking, and I'm quite a deep thinker, and I was thinking of this story that I'd heard, and you've probably heard of it. It involves a baby born in December a couple of thousand years ago, where there were three men, supposedly wise, all carrying presents, and they followed this thing called the North Star, and they found their goal of finding the baby. But what I thought was interesting was they achieved their goal, but they never actually went to the North Star, or so the story goes. And to my knowledge, we've used the North Star to guide us for centuries, but to my knowledge, nobody's ever actually been there. And that was when it comes to me. What if you had this goal in life that was so big, this mission in life that was so big that you never achieved it, and you accepted that fact? So then you detached from the outcome and focused on the process instead. Then what would happen is that every day you'd be waking up and you'd be having something to work towards, not thinking, I can't wait till I get there, but thinking, I can't wait to do what I'm doing today, because today I'm going to be a little bit more fulfilled, a little bit more energized, a little bit more productive, a little bit more content than I was yesterday. And that's very much that abundance thinking of, you've got, when you used to have a computer and you go from 0 to 100 and it'd show you the bars where it's loading. Well, all of a sudden there's no end. It's just constantly growing and loading and loading and loading. And that's kind of the core principle of North Star thinking.
Absolutely love it. We speak to a lot of people all the time, and they don't realize it, but they're just sitting a bit directionless. And that directionless inevitably creates space for boredom. Boredom attaches to loneliness, and those difficult emotions of the past suddenly kind of creep in, and then people feel like they want to have a drink. And it comes from, as a core element, not having clear future path to look forward to, and vision and things like that. So, what you're talking about here is so super relevant to what we're doing. What would be an example of North Star thinking? I mean, what's yours?
So I'll talk about mine, is empowering people to transform excuses into results and live a life that they love. And that's quite a broad statement. So I think of the North Star as, rather than an outcome, which you can have the big outcomes, which can be great, but it's the actual mission itself. So I think of the North Star being the equivalent of trying to empty the sea with a spoon. What's this thing that you can keep doing and doing and doing, and you're just never going to get there? So yeah, for me, that's where that is. And people say to me, because I've got a number of different stuff that I do, and people go, oh, you do so much, Will, it's all so different. I go, well, actually, no, it's not. It's all the same. So the coaching and training business does that. The medicinal mushroom supplement company does that. One of my goals, one of the things that I want to do is I want to own my local ice hockey club, and I want to build a 6,000-seater ice arena, and I want to make it absolutely incredible, and I want to reinvest all the profits back into the club, specifically the junior academy. Why? Because then those juniors can have access to opportunity. Let's say you're a really good junior, but your parents can't afford to send you off on all the hockey camps, but your club has a pot of money that enables great kids to go on these hockey camps. Well, if you've got a dream of being a professional ice hockey player, which I once had, we're giving you the platform to do that. So although it's very different, what's a medicinal mushroom supplement company and an ice hockey club got to do so they've got that same golden thread running through it, which is about getting people to live a life that they love. And that's really where this all folds in and what it all comes back to.
Amazing. So how does somebody go about this? Obviously the book is to guide people to finding that North Star, to helping them understand it.
Yeah. So a great way of there's a number of different tools that we use to be able to do it, but one of them is I say to people, if you had Aladdin's lamp. So for people that listen to this, maybe not watching this on YouTube or whatever, I'm literally holding an Aladdin's lamp.
Had Aladdin's lamp.
I do indeed.
Did you find it at a second-hand shop somewhere and think, I'm going to use that on a Zoom one day?
It's not far off that. Yeah, I was in the middle of it and thought, you know what, I need to buy this and this can come home with me. But I actually bought two. I bought one for at home and one for here. So if you had Aladdin's lamp and you knew you could have anything you wanted thanks to the genie, what would it be? And so many people know what they want, but because they don't know how, or they fear they might fail, they don't actually strive for it, right? Because most of the time I ask people that question, 80% of people know the answer. 80% of people know the answer. Then there's some people that don't know the answer. Now, one of the best ways, if you don't know what you want, I always say to people that if they say, I don't know what I want, well, tell me what you don't want. And we can start and we can work back from that. Because if you know what you don't want, then it will help us get clearer. So that's another way of doing it. But one of the concepts that I absolutely love that you may or may not be familiar with is something called an ikigai. I don't know if you've ever come across it before.
Absolutely.
Japanese. The Japanese concept, reason for being. So what are you good at? What does the world need? What do you love? And what can you be paid for? And there are 4 elements. Sort of, if you imagine it as a Venn diagram, sort of 4 different circles that overlap, and in the middle, that's the ikigai. So you can look at it by doing it that way. Or another way, this is one of there's two other variations. Like I say, depending on who it is and what level of clarity they've got. One of the ways is we look at what their highest values are based on what their life is demonstrating. And that last part that I said is really key. So a lot of people say, I value my family, or I value cars, or whatever it is, but their life doesn't demonstrate that, which is an indication that just actually isn't what they value. It's what they think they value. And then the other way that I do is one of the slightly deeper ones is I actually get people to reconnect with their past and think about what's a moment, a specific moment, normally almost always before the ages of 18 years old, which at that point was their lowest sort of moment emotionally, and there's normally something wrapped up in that. So for me personally, it was when I was about 13 years old, and I perceived my dad to not do certain things and the impact that had on the family. So that's very much linked to mine. And almost always when we uncover it back, it will link to something in yesteryear at some stage. There's a few different ways that we do it, but one of the simplest ways is just saying, what would you love? What would you love to have?
I love that. And again, so totally aligned with the work that we help people do. So I can see that this book is going to be very, very helpful to people. You say in the book that it's very, very important to align with your values, and purpose is a central theme. So let's talk a little bit about values. How do you establish those, and purpose?
A value is, or another way of using the term value is a priority. What's something that's a priority to you? There's a few different ways of looking at what that is. So first of all, what's a priority to you? What's really important? How a value is created is from a perceived void. So recently or in the past, we've perceived something to be missing, so therefore it then becomes important to us. And so that's the value. Now, purpose, the way I see purpose, for me, a purpose is why you do what you do. The mission is what you do. That's what I'm striving towards. But the purpose is why you do it. And people have different definitions as to what they're talking about. But for me, in a nutshell, the purpose is why you do what you do, and the value, and a value is something that is important to you. There's a few different. There's 13 questions that you can ask to uncover what I call your means value. So I talk about the 2 different types of means values and end values. An end value is a feeling, and you've got 2 types of end values. You've got away from, so that's basically pain, and towards, which is pleasure, right? So we've got the end values that we're moving away from or towards, and they have a hierarchy. So there's some things that are more painful than others that we don't want to experience, or that we particularly do want to experience. And then you have your means value. So a means value is something that you actually do. What's the thing that you do? And it's the thing that gives meaning to your life. So if you do that thing, then that's where you get your fulfillment, that's where you get your energy. And that's particularly important because it's where inspiration comes from. So a lot of people say, Will, I need some motivation. I need you to motivate me, right? Well, if they say that, I know that they're living incongruently. And what I mean by that is they're living to somebody else's values. So anytime you're using language like I have to, I need to, I ought to, I should, it's an indication you're living somebody else's values. And that somebody else could be your parents, could be old grandparents, could be aunts, uncles, society, old teachers, you name it. It's someone somewhere has said that you should be doing something in some way or another. When you're living your own values, the things that are most important to you. You might want to call it your internal compass. I don't know, whatever people want to refer to it as. You'll use language like, I love to do it. You just spontaneously do this stuff. Nobody has to tell you to do it. You don't have to schedule to do it. You just want to do it. And that's when you're in inspiration. Now, if you break down the word inspiration, in spirit. What's another word for spirit? Energy. You're in your energy. So people think they burn out because they're working too hard. They don't. People burn out because they're not spending enough time doing the stuff that they love doing. So the more that you do the stuff that you love doing, it's like the torus energy field, where it just keeps building and building and building, and that's where values become a very important component to the whole process.
I love that. I love that something so simple, often overlooked, can be so critical. Especially, burnout is such a big word, and not living in congruence. It's just what we see time and time again, right, with people with a troublesome relationship with alcohol, or it's starting to cause problems. And we can see that there's clearly not alignment in various areas in their life there. And then I think the hard thing is an awful lot of people will stop drinking or abstain from drinking, but not actually change any of these underlying factors, these things, which just means you're going to turn into something else, right? Because these are the compulsions, these are the things that drive that behavior in the first place. So I think that's where we're trying to point people in exactly this stuff as like, getting aligned with your values, getting aligned with purpose is really key.
I'm going to say this again. Now, I'm going to share some truths, or my truths, on this particular episode, things that I've never actually said to anyone ever. When I used to drink, one of the things I got from drinking was significance, right? Because I was the most drunk guy in the bar. I would buy like what felt like the world drinks. I'd be the guy that would be lining up the whole bar with Jaeger trains. It was just ridiculous, right? Absolutely ridiculous. And I got my significance from it, or an element of my significance from it, albeit the next day it didn't necessarily feel like that. And I do think that you're like, for me, this is just my opinion, is that for so many people, alcohol or drinking alcohol to excess is the symptom. It's not the cause. And if you treat the cause, the symptoms go. So if there's a healthier way of you getting whatever it is that you're getting, or not running away, or not using alcohol as the tool to run away from whatever it is that you're running away from, or trying to numb, or whatever it is, which is, I know, the great work that you do, it makes a huge difference. That was definitely what it was the case for me. It was the significance element was a factor to it. Whereas now I can get significance in so many other ways without having to be the most drunk guy.
But finding that out is a huge revelation. And so thank you for bringing that up. Let's pause just for a brief moment. I just want to share with you some of the heartfelt feedback from our incredible Complete Control community members. Listen to this.
I don't know how I signed up. I think I just got an ad on Instagram and just got a whim, just hit the button and did a call and then signed up, and didn't really consciously think much about it. And then after that, I was like, what did I just sign up for? Wait a second here. Like, far exceeded my expectations. I'm usually extremely skeptical, so I don't know how I even signed up in the first place, but whatever it was. So it's just amazing how, like, the transformation that I've seen, and even the drinking part is just kind of it was the Achilles heel, but it's kind of just the superficial problem. And it's like, once I kind of clear that up, there's so much more possibility. And the exploration discussions with Gary, with Candace, have just been so powerful, and they both kind of focus on a different area. And then with Glenn kind of looking at my data, and with my cohorts or classmates, or, it's just been everything has just been so powerful and kind of supportive of, completing the whole picture of how I do this. So just really grateful, and also just feel more grateful, and not only just for all of you, but just in life in general. It's just a little bit more clarity and peace and calm and so forth. So
I am incredibly grateful for this entire program, everybody on this call, and everything that we were able to experience. I think that it delivered more than I expected. Honestly, I like I've said before, I've done a couple of like challenges and different things. And I think that this, beyond examining my relationship with alcohol and making, I think, pretty good strides in staying alcohol free. I think it taught me a ton about myself and how to like examine my habits and my thoughts and those kind of patterns and ways to approach the things that worried me the most in this experience have just been invaluable. I think I'm leaving feeling stronger in general, more self-aware in general, and just really more anchored in who I want to be and what my values are and how I can, take better steps to achieve those. So it's been fantastic for me. And then again, our team, I really appreciate all the feedback and support from every single person on this call, but my cohort as well. It's been great.
So I love everybody that I've met here. I have loved the program. I am not an emotional person like this, but this has changed my life. It has given me a life. And there's other things I need to do too. But I don't have to do alcohol anymore. So thank you.
It's been an amazing journey and I appreciate the professionalism. Whenever I feel the stress, there's something that I can go back to everybody and the sharing from everybody and the professionalism of the program. So I loved it and I've grown a lot. So hugs and kisses.
One word is transformational. That's a word that's been bandied about for decades, but in this, it is absolutely accurate. If I was to use one word, this was a great investment. It's not self-help, it's self-realization. It's super powerful, but it exceeded my expectations. Or maybe it was Sharon who said that. Or maybe I'm exceeding my expectations, and I like that.
The program has been I'm hugely grateful for the program. I think the journey for myself has been amazing. I mean, I remember telling, I don't know if it was Candace or Gary, the first 3 or 4 weeks of the program, I was like, I can't stop thinking about not drinking. It's in my head. Every day I'm thinking about not drinking. And it's like now I'm not even thinking about it. It's just like my life has sort of stepped on. I'm excited about the future. Things are looking good.
I just love sharing the things people are saying about our complete control program. Okay, let's get back into the episode. In the book, you talk about resilience and growth through challenges. So there's a lot inside here, right? People pushing through resistance, pushing through that for change. Tell us some more about that and maybe, highlight some of your own growth through challenges.
Yeah, so so many places we can go with this. I suppose the key one is starting with stress, right? Because people talk about resilience and you're so resilient. Right? When we see someone that's resilient, it's someone that we perceive that can handle a lot of stress, or they can take a lot on. But what most people don't understand is there's 2 types of stress. There's distress and there's eustress. Eustress being EU stress, and EU being the Greek word for good means good stress. When we don't have enough, let's call it what we would refer to as stress, I call it pressure, right? So if we don't have enough pressure, our performance is low. So I don't know, you ever play any sport at all?
Rugby.
Okay, perfect. So let's say it was rugby and you were playing like a really rubbish team and they wasn't very good. So you just kind of walked out, wasn't really paying attention. That's when you're most likely to get injured, right? Because it's not very fun. Your performance is low because there's not pressure. They're rubbish, but you're also more likely to get injured. But that's also where you're going to get bored, right? So low pressure, low performance is a form of distress that's boredom. The other end of the spectrum to that is when there's so much pressure. I don't know, if all of a sudden you're asked to go and play for, I don't know, London Scottish or whatever, and they said, right, we want you to step up, or you had the big call, you're going up with the guys you're playing for Scotland, all of a sudden, the bum's going to start going, and I'm not ready for this, I don't think I can do this, right? And that's the opposite end of the spectrum, and you're not going to perform because you've got too much pressure. That's breakdown, right? So you've got boredom or breakdown at 2 ends of the spectrum. So what we're really looking for is peak performance. And peak performance is when you've got enough pressure that you can perform well, right? So it's a peak performance, and that is eustress, right? So I don't know, it's a particularly challenging game. You know you're up for it, but you're pumped, you're ready, you're in the zone, people call it, right? So this, I'm in the zone, I'm there, I'm focused, I'm engaged. Some people call this flow state, and if you listen to the research on flow state, it's typically 4% up to 4% above your current skill level. Any more than that, you start falling into breakdown, but you can get to your level, you can go a little bit higher, so 4% higher than your skill level.
Wow.
And that is eustress. Now, what's interesting about eustress is eustress happens at the border of support and challenge. Yeah, the border. So there's that tiny threshold between it's not too easy, which is where it's too supported, but it's not too hard, which is where you break down, right? And that's really what we're looking for. So when we're looking to grow in life, what we're looking for is the inspiring challenges, right? Because when we've got these inspiring challenges, these things that push us, the reason we want to go to that next level, whatever that next level for us is in life, in business, in our bucket list goals, I don't know, whatever it might be that you want to do, we want to be doing that you'll be doing that in the zone of eustress. And that's where the values piece come in again, because when you're doing what you value most and you're working your highest core values, that's where you can take on the most challenge that would cripple other people, but you can keep going. Why can Elon Musk, for example, keep going and going and going and take on this huge amount of pressure? And I believe that he has more ability to handle pressure than any other entrepreneur on the planet, which is why he's grown the businesses that he's grown, because he can handle that pressure. He can, there's loads of, listen to the classics, Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich. It's about transmutable energy. That's really what we're doing, is we're taking that energy and transmuting it, because it's in our zone of genius, as you might call it, which is your highest values. So, great topic of resilience, but it comes back to that piece of being able to be in that zone. But obviously there's other factors that are supporting resources, using things like breath work, for example, so that we can hack our physiology. We've got our two separate nervous systems. We've got our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest, our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight. In today's day and age, the stress or the distress that we get from the laptop, the phone going off, or whatever it is, particularly if we're business owners and running businesses, you've got that chronic stress. So we want to engage our parasympathetic nervous system, which the easiest way of doing that is using breath work, things like box breathing. I'm a huge fan of. But yeah, there's lots of different things that we can do to become more resilient. And this is where it folds back into North Star thinking. So I was studying Navy SEALs, and specifically there was a Navy SEAL psychologist called Eric Potterat. And Eric Potterat was studying the Navy SEALs that got through Hell Week versus those that didn't. So for those people that don't know, Navy SEALs are like the American military elite, of like our equivalent of the SAS, if you like. And I'm sure there's lots of military people that will kill me for saying that, but that's what they would do. And he found there was four things. There was four things that the guys that got through Hell Week versus those that didn't did. One of them was what he called closed focus goal setting, which is having your mission, let's call it, but you almost break it into stages, almost like checkpoints, and you just focus on the next checkpoint, which in the North Star thinking, we call it a North Star trajectory. And you have those milestones, a 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1-year, 90-day, 30-day. We break them down. So that's the first thing. The second thing was they used the power of positive self-talk. So they would say, I can do this. This is great. Not, oh my God, you're rubbish. That was key. The third thing they did was box breathing. So box breathing was a really powerful tool, which you can literally bring your heart rate down by, even if you're just at a resting rate, by like 10 beats per minute in just 60 seconds or so.
The stress is so interesting. I love what you've told us there about this resilience and going through that. And I think, this is one of the reasons why we actually use a really cool piece of technology to remotely monitor people's central nervous system. So we show people minute by minute whether they're in sympathetic or parasympathetic nervous system states. And more importantly, they get to see the different things they're doing during the day or how they are and what impact that's having on their central nervous system. And similarly, right, we teach them that there's some very simple math here. A stressed out central nervous system, which does not get recovery during the day, will always require numbing in the evening. And you can abstain from alcohol all you want. You can try and use willpower and willpower. The willpower. There you go, right?
Yeah.
You can try use the power of Will Polston or your willpower. But ultimately, if you don't calm down that central nervous system, you will look to, and Stephen Covey puts it perfectly into the 7 habits of highly effective people, right? Urgent, not urgent, important, not important. And in that, he says, if you spend all your time in quadrant 1, which is urgent and important, right? Fight or flight, immediate reactions, just doing all that sudden stuff, then you will always divert back to quadrant 3. And quadrant 3 is where you're mindlessly scrolling through Facebook, binge watching Netflix and drinking alcohol. And this is where most people are. They're spending all time in quadrant 1 and then diverting back to numbing. And actually where we're most powerful is in doing this work, the work that you're talking about here, right? Quadrant 2, not urgent, but important. And focusing on North Star thinking and things like that. So
yeah, it's honestly, and the fact that you've got that technology is just phenomenal. Everybody should have that technology. It's unbelievable. It really is just one of those things. And like most things in life, you don't realize that you're in it until you really know. Like I used to get it where the cortisol and adrenaline, like where I was so stressed, I could literally feel it in my neck from the stress. And the difference between being in that sort of parasympathetic state versus not, it's like night and day.
Night and day. The clarity of thought, the thinking, the depth of thought, everything. It doesn't come from that panicked fight or flight state. And what people don't realize is that they're exacerbating it all day. Caffeine significantly delays your ability to be able to get into recovery. And here's the other one that was a recent study published, is that because alcohol increases the production of cortisol, but it actually increases the production of cortisol over time, right? So what that means is people who've been consuming alcohol for a long period of time, you're not more stressed. You have debilitated your ability to deal with stress. And I speak to people all day, every day, and they're like, I'm so stressed at the moment. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking at your final decades now. You're in your 40s, built a very successful business, highly driven. Would you like to be able to deal with more stress or less stress? Because every time you put alcohol in your lips, you're reducing and giving a knock-on effect the older you go, reducing the ability for you to handle stress. What really shocks people is when they wind it out forward, right? Let's take it to the extreme factor so you understand what that looks like. A very, very severe heavy drinker, which people might term as an alcoholic, but I don't use that word, a very severe drinker, they become stressed out by light changes, by sound, by crowded streets, right? And that's a significant trigger for them to want to drink. So that is what we are doing with regular and often consumption of alcohol, is that we are decreasing our ability to deal with stress. Crazy.
Wow. Yeah, so the actual threshold itself is just getting smaller and smaller.
Exactly.
That's incredible. I didn't know that. I didn't know that, but that is, and it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. I don't think there's a single person on the planet that has developed a significant degree of success that hasn't used visualization in some way or another. Whether it's your runners, like your classics, like Roger Bannister, who ran the first 4-minute mile, to your more recent Usain Bolts, to your business legends like Richard Branson, obviously a hero of yours, and all of these people, they've used the power of visualization, and it's just an incredible tool.
100%. So, visualization, because I spoke to a retired NFL athlete just a few days ago, and I asked him that question. I said, do you use visualization in your career? Yeah, absolutely. Of course we did. I said, okay, have you applied that to your relationship with alcohol? And he paused and he was like, no. And I was like, why not? This is a tool. And again, we help people create the vision of having a take or leave it relationship with alcohol. So, and that being something that's really important. Like, at the end of the day, visualization is really key. But let's go into visualization, because lots of people have heard it. They don't really do it. So, obviously you're bringing this back into the forefront of people. What's the next steps? How do they bring visualization into it? Why should they do it? What's the practice look like for you?
So it's a really, really good question, because I believe that most people are visualizing to some degree. It's just whether they're doing it consciously or not.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, they imagine worst case scenarios and they would picture what's going on. So essentially visualization is using the theater of your mind. That's what we're doing is we're using the picture of your mind. Imagine like a dream, for example. Now, if I was to say, right, if you listen to this, as long as you're not driving, close your eyes. If you close your eyes, I want you to imagine a giant big elephant. And now I want you to turn that elephant pink and I want you to give it wings and let it fly away, right? Most people, they could visualize that. But what happens, a lot of people is they're visualizing, their mind's visualizing, but they're not doing it with they're not steering it. So they're not enabling it to be what they want it to be. So the idea of visualizing could be as simple as, this is one that is a real life example of visualization that's been a tool that most people have had applied to them without realizing, albeit it doesn't happen as much anymore. And the example of it is test driving a car, right? When you go and test drive a car, the salesperson gets in the car with you go test driving and they say, imagine driving along on a hot day and pressing this button and you turn on the aircon and imagine that on a hot day, or right, come around the back and open the boot and see how big, imagine you've got all the shopping, how easy it would be to put all the shopping, like they're getting you to describe and see yourself using the thing to help them sell the car. You know, most people, I say most people, I'm making a huge assumption here, but for people that have test driven a car, they've had that experience, you know, they'll feel the steering wheel and whatnot. So it's the whole idea of visualization isn't actually, believe it or not, just the visual element. It's incorporating all of the senses. So your visual senses, your what you can hear, what you can feel, what you can taste, what you can smell. Now, if I just said right now, imagine walking into a bakery and that smell of freshly baked bread, most people know, or on a spring day and that smell of freshly cut grass, most people can think of that. So that's also the form of visualization. But if you want to use this practically, then a really powerful way of doing it is to imagine that you sat in the cinema and you're sat in the front row and you've got the big screen and you literally imagine yourself on the screen doing the very thing that you might want to do in the future, whatever that might be. So in the past, I've visualized myself meeting a hero of mine, a guy called Tony Robbins. And I've visualized this over and over and over again until I'm going to show this for people that are watching this on YouTube. And then Rory, you visualized and played out in your mind many a time meeting Richard Branson, hey ho, like earlier this year, it happens, you know. So there's huge power in this, but he's seeing it on the big screen. And sort of if I go a layer deeper, that's what we call a disassociated state. So when you're seeing it on the screen, you're seeing yourself. But the next level of that is that you imagine that you're the computer game, right? You're in the computer game, so you're now seeing it. So rather than seeing somebody on the screen do the talk or drive the car or walk into the house, you're now seeing yourself turning the keys, like literally as if you're the eyes, if you see what I mean. So you're looking through the eye, turning the key to the big house or driving the car or meeting the person or whatever it might be. And that's how we can incorporate visualization. And it could be as simple as 60 seconds of visualizing an element of your life. You've not got to visualize the same thing every day, although a lot of people like to, but there can be different elements. Your wedding day, it could be, I mean, if not drinking, I'm sure you've got loads of tips on this, but rather than
ringing the bell at when you float on the stock exchange, how about that?
Yeah, that could be it. That's a big one. The one for me was like rather than drinking, if they're not drinking, right? Well, I'm going to be sat on the sofa not drinking a beer rather than having a beer. Go, right, what could I be doing instead? Right, well, I'm going to visualize myself getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and going seeing the sunrise, for example. You know, that was one of the things I did a few years. I've done it quite a few years actually. Was that when most people are just about walking in on New Year's Eve and the sun's coming up, I would go out and walk out probably about 3 miles out along the river and see the sun come up. And that was something that I associated with starting the new year as a non-drinker, feeling amazing on a freezing cold 1st of January.
Totally. Love it. Great visual right there. Those sunrises are the opposite of drinking. The opposite of drinking is enjoying the sunrise. What other core concepts do you cover in the book?
There's kind of 4 main concepts really. So there's the whole idea of the North Star thinking. Then you've got obviously the attitude element, some of which we've spoken about. But there's mastering your time, there's an attitude of gratitude, and then there's creating habits. So the North Star: master your time, an attitude of gratitude, and creating habits that stick. They're kind of the four main concepts.
Awesome. So when is the book is out now?
The book is out now. Yes, the book's available. And as of recording this, we're recording this in October 2023. The audiobook is due out at the end of October. I've been told early November 2023. So the audio will be out soon.
Super cool. And what's next for you?
I just want to get this book out to as many people as possible. So one of the core things I've tried to cram a lot into this book just to be able to get on your podcast, Rory. I've tried to put as much in as I possibly can because I've got to get on it. There's got to be an angle here somewhere. But one of the other key things that I talk about a lot is the ripple effect, which is my mission really to empower people to transform excuses into results and live a life that they love. Because I truly believe that if you do achieve what it is you're truly capable of, it won't just benefit you, but it will benefit your family, your friends, your community, society, humanity, the universe. That's the ripple effect. So for me now, I really want to ensure that I get the book in the hands of as many people as possible. They read it, they do the work, they take the action. There's dozens of exercises in there and 80-page free download resource for people that want to go through this. Like I said, for me, I wanted this to be a thing that people could get this book, and if they did anything else, even if they didn't even listen to this podcast, which I'm sure thousands and hundreds of thousands of people will be doing, it could be transformational for them, and that was truly important for me. So making sure that the ripple effect is becoming known, and the book's out there doing its thing.
Super, super cool. So it's called North Star Thinking: Master Your Mindset and Live a Life You Love.
Exactly.
Very important.
And what we're going to do, so we're doing a little bit of a promotion. If you buy the book and you order your copy at Amazon or whatever you get, and then just send an email to win, W-I-N, win, at willpolston.com with 1 year no beer. You can put that in the title. That you put that in, and then email that to win@willpolston.com. What we're going to do is everybody that orders a copy and then sends that in, we will send you another copy of the book so you can give one away, which will be a signed copy. So we'll do that. But what we'll also do is we will pop your name in the hat to come and have dinner in London, and Rory and I will find a date. I mean, originally we were going to say November, but we'll make sure that our dates tie up so we can do this, and we will have dinner. There'll be we'll pick 3 other people and join Rory, myself. We'll have dinner on me, and we'll all meet up and we'll do that. So
sounds awesome.
Few things that you can do there. You can get a signed copy, so we'll do that for the first 50 people that send an email in with 1 year no beer. We'll send you a signed copy, and then for 3 people, that'll enter you into the competition to win dinner with us in London.
Sounds lovely. Awesome. And well, thanks very much for coming back on the show, Will. Congratulations on the book. Super, absolutely awesome book. So aligned with everything we're doing here. So it must be going in the right direction. I mean, it must be.
Well, it got me on the show, didn't it? It got me on the show. So,
and where else can people find some more of you? So willpolston.com.
willpolston.com. Yeah, the socials, Will Polston. That'd be good to connect.
Good man. Thanks very much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.